Avoidance is not weakness, it's information. It is the mind quietly pointing toward the exact place where your growth is waiting. Most people misinterpret avoidance as a flaw in their character, as laziness, procrastination, or a lack of discipline. But if you look closer, you'll see that avoidance is a compass. It doesn't point north, it points inward, and it always points toward the thing that will expand you the most. The task you avoid is almost always the task that has the greatest potential to change your life. Think about it. You don't avoid the easy things, you don't avoid the familiar things. You avoid the things that challenge your identity, threaten your comfort, or force you to confront a part of yourself you haven't mastered yet. That's why the areas of greatest resistance often hide your biggest opportunity. If you look at the patterns of what you consistently delay, postpone, or ignore, you'll see a map of the exact skills, habits, and actions that would unlock the next version of you. If you avoid financial planning, that avoidance is revealing something important, that your power lies in understanding money, not ignoring it. The moment you walk toward that discomfort, your freedom expands. If you avoid learning new skills because you're afraid of looking foolish, that tells you that your true growth lies in embracing the beginner's mind. The work you resist is usually the work that demands humility, and humility is the entry point to mastery. If you avoid difficult conversations, it's because they strip away the illusions you use to protect yourself, but those very conversations are the ones that build stronger relationships, clearer boundaries, and a more confident version of you. Avoidance reveals the gap between who you are and who you want to be. It highlights the untrained muscle, the unpracticed discipline, the unresolved fear. Most people run from that revelation. They cover it with distractions, entertainment, excuses, or busyness. But the people who grow, the ones who actually change their lives, are the ones who turn toward the discomfort instead of away from it. They understand that avoidance is not an obstacle, it's a message. It's the universe whispering, "This is where the work is." Every meaningful transformation requires confronting something you've been avoiding. Your greatest growth never comes from the comfortable tasks. The easy tasks maintain your current identity. The uncomfortable ones reshape it. This is why avoidance is so valuable. It shows you exactly where the leverage is. It exposes the bottleneck in your life. If you pay attention to what you avoid, you can identify the root cause of many of your limitations. Avoidance is simply a mirror reflecting the friction inside you: fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of uncertainty, or fear of doing something imperfectly. But once you face that fear, your life begins to expand. Growth doesn't happen through inspiration alone. It happens when you walk directly toward the thing that makes you uncomfortable. This doesn't mean you must dive into everything at once. It means you should start with one avoided task today, something small, something manageable, something you've been postponing for no real reason other than discomfort. When you do that, you send a signal to yourself: I am someone who faces things. That identity shift is more powerful than motivation, more powerful than willpower. It is the beginning of true self-confidence. There is a reason certain tasks feel heavy. They require a stronger version of you. And here's the paradox: you don't become stronger before doing the work. You become stronger because you did the work. Avoidance blinds you to that truth. It makes the task seem bigger than it is. But once you start, even a little, you realize the fear was mostly an illusion. Reality is rarely as painful as anticipation. Avoidance magnifies the burden, action dissolves it. The work you avoid is the doorway to the person you want to become. The sooner you walk through it, the sooner your life transforms. Pay attention to your resistance, listen to where it points, because the power you seek, the clarity you crave, and the freedom you want all lie on the other side of the work you've been avoiding. Power doesn't come from motivation. Motivation is a spark, bright, exciting, emotional, but it burns out quickly. It rises when conditions are perfect and disappears the moment things become uncomfortable. If you rely on motivation, your progress will always feel unstable. Some days you'll feel unstoppable, and other days you'll struggle to start. This is why so many people with dreams, goals, or big visions never achieve them. They expect motivation to carry them through the difficult parts of the journey. But real power, the kind that endures, comes from mastery. Mastery is built slowly, deliberately, and repeatedly over time. It's the result of showing up when you don't feel like it, practicing when you're not inspired, and committing when the excitement has faded. Mastery is the quiet force that makes discipline automatic. It's what allows you to act without waiting for the perfect mood or a burst of energy. People often think highly successful individuals are simply more motivated, but that's almost never true. In fact, the opposite is true. The more someone relies on motivation, the less likely they are to master anything. Mastery works because it removes emotional dependence. Instead of asking, "Do I feel like doing this today?" you simply do it because it's part of who you are. When you commit to mastery, you begin to build competence. Competence creates confidence. Confidence creates consistency. Consistency creates results. And results create power, not power over others, but the personal power that comes from knowing you can rely on yourself completely. That is the kind of power that changes lives. Most people never reach mastery because they confuse practice with performance. They want to be good immediately. They want results fast. When they don't see progress quickly enough, motivation fades and they quit. But mastery requires patience. It asks you to show up again and again, even in silence, even unnoticed, even when there is no reward yet. The early stages of mastery are invisible: no applause, no recognition, no instant gratification. This is where most people fall off, but the ones who endure build something unshakable, a habit of excellence. There is something deeply empowering about doing the work, even when it feels difficult or boring. Every time you push through resistance, you strengthen your identity. You start to see yourself as someone who follows through, and this identity becomes fuel. You start relying less on motivation and more on trust in your ability to do what needs to be done. When you see yourself showing up consistently, you stop negotiating with yourself. You stop waiting for inspiration. You stop needing to feel ready. Mastery is a lifestyle, not a moment. It's the willingness to repeat something long enough that your brain rewires itself around the behavior. Eventually, what once required effort becomes effortless. What once felt overwhelming becomes natural. Think of athletes, musicians, or creators at the top of their craft. They don't perform at a high level because they wake up motivated every day. They perform well because their training, repetition, and discipline have become second nature. Their habits carry them through even on the days they feel low. That's the power of mastery. When you rely on motivation, your progress is emotional. When you rely on mastery, your progress is structural. Mastery embeds the work into your identity, your routines, and your environment. It removes friction, it removes debate, it removes uncertainty. You build your life in a way where doing the work becomes easier than avoiding it. People search for hacks, tips, or shortcuts, not realizing that the ultimate hack is consistency. The ultimate hack is mastery. When you master the fundamentals, you no longer need complexity. When you master your craft, you no longer fear the work. And when you master your mind, you no longer depend on motivation. True power comes from becoming the kind of person who does the hard things without needing to be pushed. Mastery is freedom because once you master the work no longer controls you. You control it, you can leverage it, you can scale it, you can build upon it. And everything you want: wealth, clarity, strength, peace becomes accessible because you've built the internal engine that runs independent of moods, excuses, or circumstances. When you stop chasing motivation and start pursuing mastery, you unlock a version of yourself capable of achieving anything. That's where real power lives. You can't heal while holding hands with what hurt you. It sounds simple, almost obvious, yet most people live their entire lives trapped inside this contradiction. They want peace while staying connected to the source of their chaos. They want clarity while clinging to the confusion. They want to move forward while refusing to let go of the weight pulling them backward. Healing is not just about recovery, it is about release, and release requires courage, the courage to walk away from the familiar, even when the familiar is painful. When something or someone has wounded you, the attachment doesn't disappear automatically. Pain forms bonds just as strongly as love does, sometimes even stronger. You replay memories, justify patterns, excuse behaviors, and convince yourself that maybe it wasn't that bad, maybe it can still work, maybe holding on will eventually bring closure, but the truth is the opposite. As long as you hold on, you are reopening the wound every day. You can't stitch yourself back together while constantly picking at the scar. Healing requires space, emotional, mental, physical space, and you cannot create that space while staying intimately connected to what broke you. Many people misunderstand healing as something that happens naturally over time. Time alone does nothing. What heals you is the distance you create from the source of the hurt. What heals you is the boundary you build. What heals you is the decision to stop giving your energy to things that drain you. Time only works when you stop re-exposing yourself to the same pain. You cannot recover from what you continuously revisit. The reason people stay attached to their pain is not weakness, it's familiarity. Even suffering becomes comfortable when you've lived with it long enough. You know how it behaves, how it reacts, how it feels. Leaving it behind means stepping into the unknown, and the unknown often feels scarier than the pain you already understand. But healing demands that you choose uncertainty over guaranteed hurt. It requires that you trust in a future you cannot yet see, rather than staying loyal to a past that has already proven it can break you. You also can't heal because holding on to what hurt you rewrites your self-worth. It convinces you that this is the best you can have, that this is what you deserve, that something better doesn't exist. Pain becomes your identity, and letting go feels like letting go of a part of yourself. But the truth is, the version of you that formed around that pain is not your real self, it is your wounded self. Healing requires that you meet yourself again after the damage, without the influence of the person or situation that caused it. Letting go doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean pretending it never happened. Letting go means choosing yourself over the pain. It means choosing freedom over attachment. It means acknowledging that you deserve more than survival, you deserve peace. You deserve relationships that don't require self-betrayal. You deserve environments that don't drain your spirit. You deserve to feel whole again, even if that means walking alone for a while. There is a moment in every healing journey where you must stop asking, "Why did this happen to me?" and start asking, "Why am I still staying connected to something that harms me?" That shift in perspective is where true healing begins, because the moment you stop holding hands with your hurt, you start holding hands with your power. You start seeing clearly, you start breathing again, the fog lifts, your body relaxes, your mind unclenches, your heart begins to rebuild itself. Healing is not easy, it demands strength, it demands grief. It demands forgiveness not for the other person, but for yourself, for the version of you that stayed too long, tolerated too much, and didn't know better at the time. But healing also brings rebirth. Once you let go, you create room for something better to enter. You create room for joy that doesn't come with conditions. You create room for love that doesn't require losing yourself. You create room for a life that feels light again. You cannot heal while holding hands with what hurt you, because healing requires freedom, and freedom requires letting go. The moment you choose release, you open the door to your own liberation. You reclaim your energy, your peace, your time, your self-respect. And, most importantly, you reclaim yourself.